Hi, everyone. I am recording a follow up to our meeting last week because when I was thinking about it afterwards, I realized I felt like I needed to say a bit more about adapting to a crisis in my view. And of course, this is outside the normal parameters of our relationship. So feel free not to memorize it or anything. But if this is helpful to you, I hope that you will take some of it on board. So just to say what this is about, I just wanted to review what a crisis is and why there's a problem and what I think the solutions are, or some of them. So the problem is that a crisis disrupts all your connections, routines, purpose, and sense of competence. So the people that you see every day around you, the coffee shop, the hallways, the meetings, they're all gone. The normal start and stop times to your days have changed. Many meetings have changed. Some people hang out in their pajamas all day and others stay up till 4 a.m. The purpose that you might have might still be present if you're lucky enough to still have your job or your studies, but it's called into question by the broader world crisis. And many people, of course, have lost their jobs or suddenly discovered they're now expected to be primary school teachers and so on. And relatedly, your sense of competence with the established things that you used to do might have been at an acceptable or high level, and now you've got a lot of new things going on and you have a sense of not being equipped and perhaps not being very competent at all. And so these are real phenomena that create a sense of panic, anxiety, paralysis, grief, and so on. So just to kind of restart what I was saying last week, it's important at this stage to recreate your connections in a very mindful and intentional way. Just really make a list of people that you're responsible to and for, and your friends and neighbors, and reach out to them and make sure that they have food and shelter. I mean, just go back to the beginning of the Maslow needs hierarchy and just make sure everyone's okay that you're connected to. Of course, another basic point everyone should know about is hand washing and social distancing. And then from there, really, in this connection, you're communicating that you care and you're there to help. And, I think a lot of times it's useful to just start off by saying, wow, this is such a crisis. Bad things are happening. Everything's different. We're all going through such a lot. We're in it together. And then spend a focus or part of the time on not just reality checking about how bad it is, but how we're affected personally and how we're coping. And so, that might be a more positive tone than some people are using their connections for right now. But also really seeking to increase the frequency, breadth, and intimacy of your connections. So the people that you normally get in touch with, contact them more often. And the people that you normally get in touch with, just add a bit extra and reach out to some more people and ask them about things that you don't normally talk about, like whether they're mentally okay and whether they have food and shelter. And that's just really useful in this time because not everyone feels capable of asking. And related to the above point is that the old purposes that you have in your relationships and job may have changed radically, and that's really okay, to accept that. Things have changed. And this may mean that you need to acknowledge that you have new purposes during the time of the pandemic, especially around supporting friends and family and self-care, that you didn't have to put on the list before. Now they're at the top of the list, but your list has changed. For some people, as soon as you start thinking about a purpose, you start to feel a sense of powerlessness and lack of control. It's helpful to write down all the things you're worrying about that you don't control, and then maybe set a defined time to worry about this every day, like 5 to 10 minutes. You might think, oh, I just won't worry about things I can't control, but that can be actually overwhelming and unproductive. This is where you start to see yourself shouting at others and turning to substance abuse and so on. So compartmentalizing is a more effective strategy for remaining highly functional. Allow yourself to worry about this list for a defined period of time. And then write down what you do control. At the top of the list should be your health practices, social distancing, and washing your hands and so on. And then you might have other goals around your work or helping yourself to cope better or helping your organization or your community. Now, if you set SMART goals around that with your new purpose, make those timelines a lot shorter, like 1 day. Don't make any week-long or 2-week or month-long plans where everything's changing day to day. Defer some of those decisions and focus on what makes sense today when things are changing and crazy. A lot of people try to cling on to what their old priority list was, and that can just result in a sort of chaotic feeling of flailing. But really reset your priorities and change your plans for today. Some people may have a lot of extra time, especially if you've been fired, you could ask yourself, what will you do with that extra time? And maybe you're going to take up skills or reach out in relationships or volunteer, or you just got to spend time looking for jobs and so on. Some people, of course, have a lot of extra responsibilities, especially around parenting and caring. So you need to ask yourself, how are you going to find help for that? Because you're not going to be able to do it on your own sometimes. And or what expectations and deadlines will you let go of now that you can't meet? And just email about that now. Don't wait till you blow it next week or in 2 weeks. Just email now and say, look, with COVID, things have changed. I'm going to need extra time, or I'm not going to be able to do this. Just let yourself off the hook mentally. Cross off the list of things to do. I've started another list of things I'm going to do once the pandemic passes. Just put some of the tasks that you have now onto that list. You're not going to do them now or for the next 3 months. You still want to do them when time permits. Create a new sense of structure and routines. Reestablish all your old meetings. Like if you used to hang out on a Thursday night with your friends, try and do that again online. That's just really valuable in terms of your mental health. But at the same time, make sure that structure serves your friends and family and workers as well. Make sure that their goals are met. You have a new purpose. What are their purposes? Reality checking about the crisis with trusted people is valuable, but again, limit the time you spend angsting about it or commiserating about how we're so fortunate that we're not living in the US or other topics like that. And, really acknowledge, again, just come back to this, that some people's roles in your life may change due to having more or less needs, time, and resources. So check in on how your friends are traveling and if they need help or they need something different than you normally would expect for them. Oops, sorry, that was going backwards. Let's go down again. And ask yourself how you can contribute to the crisis using your old skills because it's easier and faster. So academics are trying to write opinion pieces or do research and so on. But also ask yourself whether there are new tasks that are important at this time that might need help and which will be the easiest for you to get into or acquire skills in. So things like, helping old people or, shopping, driving, and so on. These might be things you wouldn't normally have as part of your life, but maybe you're able to do it now and maybe there's a need. Now, if you have new tasks to do, like being a primary school teacher to your children, show some self-compassion about that, Even if the tasks that you're doing them ineptly, you can expect that over a 3-month or a 6-month or an 18-month period, you will grow as a person. So self-compassion now and expect to grow in the future for those new skills. Of course, in a crisis, we have all these stress hormones, as I was talking about last week. We've got death and illness maybe for some, but we've also got loss of connection, work, and so on. So racing thoughts, meltdowns, and motivation deficits are really normal, and you can show yourself self-compassion about that. It's good to really be cautious about what coping methods you're going to use. Information seeking is a normal go-to for academics and students, but really beware in this case, okay? Don't overload. Also avoid drugs and booze and shouting at people. These are all terrible ways of coping, as you know. And I heard a great line on the weekend, you don't need to be scary when you're scared. So a lot of people that I've seen are kind of overreacting and emoting. You don't need to do that. You can try to avoid that. Isolation that we're all in because of the COVID can lead to depression, so be wary of that and be careful to reach out. For me, it's always important to think both about the body and the mind, so you need to address your stress in your body with exercise, with humor, because when you laugh, it helps to get rid of those stress hormones, with breathing, and of course, for many of us, our normal exercises have been disrupted. So you may need to change your exercise routine, but don't just lightly stop it, Pick something that's going to replace what you used to do. There's an app called Home Workouts that I'm kind of experimenting with. It's quite advanced, at least from me. So recommend it to you. Also in your mind, we've talked about compartmentalization and connection. And for a lot of people, I think it's beneficial to really actually try to increase your quiet time at a time like this. So things like meditation or prayer can really help to calm and focus you and make sure you have action that's in line with your values. I like the app Insight Timer. It's got a lot of really good meditations, including for beginners. And last, I just want to say this is a time to connect in with the bigger narrative that you're a part of. The world has changed in the last few weeks, but we are still here. So this season will pass and we'll look back on it. And when we do, you don't want to necessarily think to yourself, oh, I managed to tick all the boxes on my to-do list from January. Maybe you want to see yourself as having helped other people, stayed in touch with your parents. Maybe if your parents, are in that target age range, you want to really reach out and affirm to them your relationship because, if the worst happens, you'd regret not having done it. So those kind of new things that you might not have thought about, just think about how you're going to look back in 5 years so you have no regret and you're really happy with how you acted in the crisis. So just to restate, I realized after our meeting last week, I needed to say a bit more about responding to crises itself. And I was mulling over that. I didn't really know what I would say. And then Megan and I watched a seminar on the psychology of crisis that she'd subscribed to on the weekend from a guy called Henry Cloud. He's like a Christian psychologist and leadership researcher. And he just went over these themes one after the other. And I thought, yes, this is what everyone needs to know. So that's why I made this. So if you want a 90-minute and more detailed pass on this, but it's going to have biblical references, then you can search for a version online, and I just think it's worth anyone's time. He's also written a whole heap of other books that I recommend, beyond the crisis in general. Okay, thanks for that, guys. Hope to talk to you soon. Bye.